Between realities. Ah! I'm back. Hi guys, how you doing? Okay, so I guess 2 points about being a ghost that you should be aware of in case that ever happens to you. The first one is it's incredibly painful. Like every cell of your body is being pricked with a sewing needle, so just, adjust for that. And also, for some reason, there's this really annoying fairy that follows you around and gives you helpful advice. At first, it's like, oh, I have a cute little fairy companion, but then it just gets really annoying after the first 3 minutes or so. Um, but anyway, today's video is about Perona and her ghost fruit. I'm sorry, not the ghost fruit. That's a common misconception, just because she's able to eject her spirit from her body and she's able to control a bunch of these little familiars that take the appearance of cute ghosts. I could understand why you would think that her fruit is just called the ghost fruit. But no, it is in fact the hollow fruit, or as with her laughter style indicates, the horo no mi. And so let's just do that for a little while because that's really fun to do. Horo no mi. All right. Like the fairy, I think that would get annoying after a while. But anyway, I was actually kind of curious as to why it was just called the hollow fruit instead of the ghost fruit, because the literal meaning of it, you can take it to mean ghost, because I looked up on Nihongo Dictionary, which is a website that I use sometimes to find out like what certain Japanese words mean or English words translated into Japanese, and sure enough, when I typed in ghost, horu was not one of the first responses there. I think what Oda was trying to go for here was sort of like a double meaning, because Oda likes to do that a lot. I mean, he could have just went ahead and named it the ghost fruit. Nobody would have cared. It would have made perfect sense. It's gothic Lolita girl that's living on Thriller Bark, which is an island that's a whole horror aesthetic, like Transylvania, creepy castles, creepy cemetery, creepy foggy forest, zombies roaming around. So yeah, like here's the ghost girl. You gotta have a ghost girl, right? But no, I think the double meaning with that is that hollow can also mean referring to like hollowing someone's spirit out. And that can itself mean two things: either physically removing your spirit from your body, as Perona does with herself. She can, astral projection, basically. Her spirit can leave her body and she can do a bunch of freaky stuff with that, and she can fly and everything. But on top of that, she can also hollow out somebody's spirit metaphorically, in that whenever one of her hollows or her ghosts travel through someone else, their spirits don't get removed, rather they become incredibly depressed. Absolutely just completely depressed. It doesn't matter really how powerful their will was up to that point. Even somebody like Sanji and Zoro, and I think even Luffy. Did Luffy ever have to deal with the negative hollow? I'm pretty sure he had at some point. The ones I'm remembering immediately are Sanji and Zoro, but I'm pretty sure Luffy also had to deal with it too. And whenever that hollow passes through them, it doesn't matter if it's like straight through their heart or just a portion of their body. Whenever a ghost comes in contact with them, they immediately lose all will to fight, and in fact, all will to live. They literally just collapse to the ground and just like, I'm lower than a sea slug. Actually, a sea slug has more, right to life than I do right now. I'm lower than a sea slug, shit. So the positive there is that the effect doesn't last very long. Now, you would figure, in theory, Perona, because she can control all of these ghosts, there doesn't really seem to be an upper limit on these things. She usually has, half a dozen of them just following her around wherever she goes. But if the need arises to, she can summon, dozens of them. And she has the mini variety, the mini hollow, and she can summon giant ones. Doesn't really seem to be a limit on that. So you'd figure, like, even if the effect of the depression doesn't last very long, the hollowing out, like, it really only seems to last, like, less than 10 seconds. Just long enough for a character to be made fun of, and then they snap back to reality. Like, it'll get happening, like, Zoro will pass through him, he's like, I can't be the best swordsman in the world. I can't even aspire to be a log of crap. And then someone will make fun of him, like Sanji will be like, yeah, I've been telling you that the whole time, freaking Marimo head. And then Zoro will snap back to reality. He's like, screw you! So it doesn't happen very long, but if Perona can just make an infinite number of these things, or not even infinite, just a lot of them, she can just keep sending a ghost, like a Ferris wheel, just constantly cycling through the person's body. Because the ghosts have a quality of ghosts, of spirits, in that you can't attack them. I mean, you can try, but they're intangible. It's not going to work. You know, you can't cut them, you can't burn them, you can't destroy them in any way. So don't even bother trying to attack the spooky ghosts. It's not going to work. In fact, well, they're not really spooky. They're more just kind of... They honestly kind of just look like an emoji that has yet to be released yet. They are kind of adorable, I guess, and they all repeat the same thing over and over again. The horo 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 horo. So they don't really strike terror in the hearts of men, but they strike depression in the hearts of men, if that makes sense, right? But yeah, she doesn't really do that mostly because she doesn't need to. Perona is a character that, because her ability is just so unblockable, no matter, you know, it doesn't matter how strong armor you have, it doesn't matter how powerful you are, it doesn't matter what devil fruit ability or how much hockey you have, you can't block these things. They're going to hit you. Even Usopp, who was like the only person that was immune to this, and I'll get to that in a second, he still wasn't able to block it. It's just that he was immune from the effect, all right? Because he was already so pessimistic and he was already so kind of just down in the dumps about himself that he's like, you know what? I'm already negative. It doesn't work. I've already hit rock bottom. I don't know about you, but that made me feel really bad for Usopp at that point. Like, it made me feel good because I'm like, oh, okay, now we know that Perona can be defeated, that Usopp is going to be the one to fight her, and he's going to be the one to prevail over her ability. He just has a natural immunity to it. But it's like a natural immunity, but it's like, oh, Usopp, come on, man, you're not giving yourself enough credit. Come on, I saw that fight with you and Luffy. You didn't win, but you got pretty far. You know, so that was really sad. You know, it's just like all the things that people say when they get the negative hollows shoved through their bodies, like I'm lower than a sea slug and all that crap. I'll never amount to anything. It's like, does Usopp think that about himself 24/7? I hope he's improved on that since the time skip. It would actually be really funny if he did improve on that since the time skip. Like, Usopp is still like a scaredy cat sometimes when they're coming up to a really, you know, scary island, or they have to face a really strong opponent. But I think he's doing better than he used to be. So who knows? Maybe the negative hollows might have somewhat of a more effect on him now because he's trained and he's gotten his confidence up a little bit, and that's what the negative ghosts prey on, that confidence that the enemy has, okay? So, some other techniques that she has other than just making people incredibly depressed. And the thing is with that is that you figure, you know, after somebody's on the ground and they have no more will to fight, even if it's only for a couple of seconds, you can have your way with them. You know, you could finish them off in a variety of ways at that point. Now, Perona doesn't really do that. You think the smart thing would be Perona having some sort of weapon concealed on her, and then after the negative hollow passes through their opponent and they're on the ground and they're not moving and they have no will to continue, you finish them off. I mean, if you were practically trying to take out your enemies, that's how you would do it. Perona is somewhat drunk on her own power in the sense of just like, you know, this is my fairy garden. I am the master here, and, you know, there's nobody that will oppose her, but at the same time, she doesn't really like to soil her own hands, so she'll have Kumashi or Hippo Gentleman or another one of the zombies on Thriller Bark attack the opponent for her. But you'd figure the smart thing to do is don't play with your opponents, don't toy with them. You know, she revels in it whenever a strong opponent walks up to her and is like, I'm gonna take you down, gothic Lolita ghost girl. And then Perona's like, really? Negative hollow, and then she's on the ground like, oh, what am I gonna do now? And instead of, you know, finishing them off, she's like gloating, like, what do you think about my ability now, huh? And then they get back up, it's like, yeah, you got me off by surprise that time, but this time I'm like, negative hollow, my mother never loved me. Something interesting I've noticed, though, when I'm going back and looking through all of these devil fruits, because I'm doing the devil fruits on the Mysterious Four. We did the Kage Kage no Mi wielded by Moria, the Horo Horo no Mi wielded by Perona, and there's going to be a third video on Absalom's Sube Sube no Mi. Hogback didn't have a devil fruit, so it's only 3 out of the Mysterious Four. But something I've noticed about all 3 of them that they have in common is that the wielders of these fruits don't take their abilities far enough. Like, we've already talked about Moria. Like, if Moria's ability was wielded by somebody with more initiative, they would get stuff done. Like, if Crocodile had the Kage Kage no Mi, Crocodile would use his fruit to its fullest extent. He wouldn't be just lazing around, you know what I mean? Or if Kaido had it. You know, if this fruit was wielded by somebody with more intelligence, more initiative, wanted to get it done, you know, faster and more efficiently, then they would be close to unstoppable. Same thing with Perona, and even the same thing with Absalom, where Absalom was more interested in just gratifying his own lustful lustful desires, you know, like he just wanted not, that's what he used his devil fruit for. Like he went invisible to like creep on like Robin and Nami. Like remember that scene where he like licked Robin on the ship and then he, you know, was touching Nami in the shower, you know, it was getting to some dark, creepy places for One Piece, you know, but that's what he used it for. Like I'm just going to satiate my lustful fantasies rather than all of the other stuff you can do by literally turning invisible. Same thing with Perona. If the Horo Horonomi was wielded by like Blackbeard or somebody, Blackbeard would use the negative hollows, make his opponents drop to the ground, and then take out one of his flintlocks, and then that's all she wrote at that point. You know what I mean? Also, I have a theory that, you know, the comical appearance that the hollows take, you know, that funny emoji face kind of appearance. I have a feeling like the user of the fruit can choose the form that the ghosts appear as, because they're ghosts, they're hollows. They don't have a physical, tangible form, so you can basically make them look like whatever you want. And Perona is the gothic Lolita girl, so she made that kind of like goofy, cutesy kind of appearance. But if it was wielded by somebody like Blackbeard or somebody like Kaido, I think the ghost would take a much more intimidating kind of appearance. Oh man, if they were wielded by Kaido, because Kaido, you know, like feudal Japan, all the oni and everything, I could totally imagine them taking the appearance of like you know, like the mask, the no mask, you know what I mean, that kind of thing. Oh my god, that would be terrifying. Right, though, so some other abilities that she's got. Okay, well, I did say that the ghosts don't have a physical form, and that's partially not true. Okay, they can explode. Okay, that's what I'm getting across here. Okay, you could have a moment where a ghost could attach to you, and then she could snap her fingers, and then boom. And then, you know, the opponent would definitely feel the damage from that. We don't really get an equivalent, like how much, you know, explosive power the ghosts are really packing, but suffice it to say that the mini hollows, the smaller ghosts, result in a much smaller explosion, and the larger ghosts that she makes are a much larger explosion, to the point that it could actually destroy the opponent altogether. When she did this with Usopp, and she made that giant ghost that like bit down on him, the bite didn't do a lot of damage, like the giant like Big Boo from like Super Mario Brothers. Like that, the bite didn't do a lot of damage. Usopp is just trapped in this ghost, but she mentioned that when it blows, it's going to completely rip him to pieces. Okay, he's not even going to be around anymore at that point. Now, Usopp was clever enough to stop the explosive impact using an impact dial. He stored it in an impact dial, so that's something. I don't know if it was ever shown at that point that an impact dial could store explosions, but it's kind of good that you figured that out, or, you know, sooner rather than later. Usopp is a guy that likes to tinker with things a lot, so I can imagine he was on the Going Merry and then the Sunny, messing around with the dials and seeing what the upper limit of what they can or can't do. Like maybe Usopp took like a firecracker or a string of firecrackers or something, and then used the impact dial, and he's like, I wonder if I could store this, and he figured it out, and he's like, oh, so these things work on explosions too. That's good to know. So yeah, if that was the case, Usopp probably would have not been around very much longer, but yeah, they can explode. Something else that Perona can do is, like I said, she can astral project her own spirit. Now, her own spirit takes the appearance of herself. It doesn't take the appearance of the ghost, like the hollow. So Perona will look exactly like she looks when she's in her corporeal form. She has the same clothes, she has her crown, she has everything. She has an umbrella, she has everything. Except she's a ghost now, so she can phase through solid matter, she can fly, she can even make herself appear gigantic, so she can morph her appearance. I don't know if it's possible, but I would like to assume that because, like, she's a ghost, she could take any form that she desires. That would be pretty cool. We've just never seen it with that. Once again, she's Lolita girl, so maybe she's like, I could take the appearance of, like, this giant Godzilla dragon to scare the crap out of my enemies, but that wouldn't be very cutesy, you know what I mean? That's not really my style. Now, there's a downside to this. While it works great for, you know, espionage and reconnaissance, you can literally just leave your body, and then you can travel around, phase through walls. She can also use her hollows as reconnaissance as well. She could send her ghosts out to observe things, and I don't know if she can see what they can see. It's kind of left vague, or they come back to her and they report to her what they saw. Maybe it might be something like that. But she herself can, yeah, turn into a ghost, and she can, like, be a fly on the wall in any situation. I don't think she can turn invisible because that once again would be more into the land of the Sube Sube no Mi, which is Absalom's fruit. But it doesn't really matter because if there's a wall there, she can just phase through the wall a little bit just so her eye is present and she can look through the wall. And at that point, she's not technically invisible, but no one's going to notice her if she's smart with it. However, two downsides with this. First downside is she's intangible. So while she can't be hurt, she also cannot hurt others. Now, she kind of got around this by not only using the explosive, mini hollows and her ghosts and everything, but she also got around this by psychologically messing with her opponents. So she was going after Usopp, and then Usopp was already kind of terrified of her because he couldn't hit her, but then Perona creeps up behind Usopp and then puts her ghost arms right into Usopp's chest, and she makes it seem like my hands are wrapped around your heart. One little squeeze and I can stop, and there's nothing you can do about it because I'm a ghost. And Usopp's like, oh no, I don't know what to do. I'm gonna die. Perona's just like, yeah, actually I can't do that. So she's a ghost, but she can mess with people like your hands are in my body. That's gonna skeeve anybody out. I don't care who you are. If all of a sudden you're fighting this ghost girl and then her arms are reaching through you and grabbing you, and it's just you can't do anything to stop her because you can't grab her and knock her off you, that's gonna psychologically mess with you if you don't know the intricacies of her fruit, because for all you know, she really could do that. She could grab your heart and squeeze it and stop it right there like freaking Law does with his ability. So yeah, you just never know. But Usopp was able to figure it out. He was able to figure it out that yeah, she's intangible right now. I can't hit her, but she can't hurt me, so it's all good. The second crucial weakness of the astral projection thing is it's leaving your physical body completely open to enemy attack. Now, the way that Perona usually does this is she runs back to her hidden room. So it's a secret room that's in the wall, and it has a bed in it, and she'll sit on the bed, and then she'll leave her body and then phase through the wall. So under normal circumstances, you really wouldn't be able to find her body, but it's not something you can do in the middle of combat. You can't be in the middle of fighting somebody and then astral project, because all the enemy would have to do is attack your lifeless body, and then if the body gets destroyed, your ghost gets destroyed along with it. You're dead at that point. There's nothing, it doesn't matter where your ghost is, your body's destroyed, you're dead. So yeah, she had to run away from Usopp at first, and she was terrified, and then get to her room, and then she, I think she used Kumashi to run interference, so gave her time to get into her secret room, and then she could leave her body so she can mess with Usopp with the heart thing, and she made herself giant. But at the end of the day, yeah, it really did nothing to actually, it didn't do anything to actually physically hurt Usopp, but it did mess with him psychologically. But then Usopp figured out the trick, figured out where her corporeal body was, and then used his own psychological means of defeating Perona by attaching her to the bed with the sticky bomb, and then he used the Atlas shot. Well, he used the Atlas shot to destroy the wall, so he found her, then the sticky bomb, and then the cockroaches, and then, of course, ending it out with the Usopp golden pound, and then of course she gets completely traumatized to the point where she loses consciousness. All of the ghosts disappear as well, typical devil fruit kind of weaknesses there, and that's how Perona was defeated. So yeah, like I said though, if this fruit was wielded by somebody with a little bit more, like for example, let me just throw something out at you here. This fight was a little bit comical in the sense of Perona and Usopp's facial expressions, because they make very unique facial expressions. So there's the time when she used the giant ghost, the big boo thing, and she's like, I'm gonna destroy you, I'm gonna blow you up, and then she does that, but then Usopp uses the impact dial. After that, she just kind of assumes that, oh, this man is indestructible, this man is so powerful, not realizing, you can try that again. How about you try the same thing with the big boo again, except this time maybe make a bunch of them instead of just one, because you clearly can do that. Or just keep using it over and over. Oh, it didn't work the first time, you had a method to nullify it? Alright, how about the second time, or the third time, or the fourth time? That little seashell has probably got to have to reach a breaking point at some place, you know what I mean? So, it's sort of like a comical fight, and like I said, she's so used, I think, to just messing with her opponents, not worrying about getting hurt because she's a ghost, and doesn't have to worry about her attacks not working, because up till Usopp, they always worked. Always. So, she gets to that point where she's in a real fight with Usopp, and she's not used to it, so she's like, oh crap, what do I do now? And so that's where she failed there. But yeah, I do think that this fruit has a lot of strong applications, like beyond just what Perona did with it. If you could literally shapeshift, if you could change your body into whatever you wanted, that would be very intimidating to the opponent there. If all of a sudden Usopp turned the corner and there was this giant Godzilla thing, like, rah, like breathing right in your face, and you could like create fake atomic breath or whatever, like Usopp would probably faint like a freaking, piece of driftwood right there, just like, but like I said, that's not a guarantee you could do that, but you're a ghost, you lack a physical form, you might be able to take the shape of whatever you want there. Like I said, I think the ghost could also change shape depending on to the user's desire. When you send out a ghost to make someone feel, depressed, and you hollow them out, don't just send one of them because it only lasts for a few seconds. Keep because these ghosts can't be hit, so keep like 4 or 5 of them constantly attached to the opponent, like familiars, like you can't get rid of them no matter what you do, and they just keep on cycling through you, like in an infinity loop or something. Like, do something like that, and it would be really effectual. Beyond that, the only physical attack we've seen these things do are the exploding thing, but, you can make use of that. Not even like the way that Perona did with, like, attaching them to the opponent and then, causing... Ghosto Rap, that's the name of the attack there. But imagine if you use these things, like your opponent's running down a hallway, okay, and you want to get the jump on them. You want to get an ambush on your opponent. Opponent's running down a hallway. All right, well, here's what you do. Use your ghost powers, go under the hallway to the floor below that or the floor above it, and use your ghost to make the floor or the ceiling explode. And just out of nowhere, you're running, and you're like, I gotta get out of it, and then that's when you launch a freaking surprise attack. And that's when you launch your negative hollows to, like, go into your opponent, and it's like, oh, man, I fell down that hole. There's no way I could get back up there, man. It's like 4 feet. I'm useless. And just get the infinity loop going, and then pull out a knife or something, and then there you go. That's all she wrote. Seemed like, well, you wouldn't be able to pull out a knife if you were in this if you were in the intangible ghost form, but you could still use the ghost wrap and then explode your opponent, and then you're done. I mean, like, it would be easy to do that. Of course, if your opponent was strong enough, like if it's someone like Kaido who's built like a brick shithouse, like an explosion probably wouldn't do much to him or anything really. But I think for most opponents, like, there's smarter ways that Perona could have went about this than what she did. It wasn't a bad way she utilized her fruit. It was just very underwhelming from what it was capable of. So something I always forget to talk about when I do these devil fruit discussions. Sometimes I mention it, sometimes I don't. I forget every time. Usually it seems more than I remember. But an awakening. All right, so the Horo Horo no Mi is a paramecia. So with that being said, and going along with the logic of other paramecias so far we've seen that are awakened, it would be allowed to change the rest of the world around you into ghosts. Now, I can actually see this in a really effectual way. If you could create illusions, essentially. So let's say your opponent is... I mean, this is a very particular thing, but let's say your opponent is running away, and there's a bridge. And your opponent's like, oh, I'm going to run across that bridge to the other side and get away. But it's not a real bridge. It's an illusion. It's you changing the environment into your ghost, into your hollows, and you're taking the form of a bridge, so they take one step and then they fall and plummet. Or you could, the problem is, the thing is what we've seen with Katakuri's Mochi and Doflamingo's String is that it's really useful to turn the entire ground into their element so they could just use it at their will. But Perona can kind of already create a seemingly endless amount of ghosts. It's just that maybe she would be able to like ghosts with it would be like the dead rising from hell, just like these ghosts would just start to bubble up from the ground like soap bubbles, like and it's just like surrounding you. For one thing, it would deafen you with their endless horo-horos, but also there's nowhere you could go. Like the entire battlefield is surrounded by these things, like a ghost dome or something. And then once again, you could do the infinity loop at that point. So pip pip cheerio, you're done at that point. So yeah, really cool devil fruit. I really dig Perona. I think she's pretty cute. We all know where she's at right now. She's on the Muggy Island or the Muggy Kingdom, hanging out with Mihawk. And you know what? I've made so many jokes about that. I've made like Mihawk's giving it to Perona long sword style. So I'm not even gonna bring it up. I mean, I guess I kind of just did, but I'm not even gonna go there. But I will read a sexy fanfic about it. Perona writhed on the bed, her pink hair fluttering about like a lioness's mane, as Mihawk entered the room, shut the door with a large commanding boom, ripped off his wet shirt, and then laid right on top of her, his cross necklace dangling over her face. And he asked her, "Ghost woman, are you prepared to deal with my expert swordsmanship? You may not be ready yet." Perona could do nothing but simply let out a quivering, "Yes, Mihawk-sama, I am." She was unsure of her words, but they decided to continue. And that's when Mihawk proceeded to whip out his... And if you want to read the rest of that masterpiece, go and check out myfanfiction.net link in the description below. Have a great October, guys! We're just getting started.